Disturbing information about the decreasing balance of Bitcoins on exchanges. Total sell-offs. Short-term holders, while long-term holders are sitting and don't know what to do. What exactly do the charts look like? Where can we drop on Bitcoin? Where is the critical zone? And where is the trap for those shorting? Which zone, in my opinion, will be the maximum rebound zone currently in Bitcoin? When I plan to sell my cryptocurrencies, where are the most important zones you need to know about right now to avoid being caught off guard? Why, we have a sell-off on Trump and how this might further impact the cryptocurrency market. Are we, my dear friends, slowly entering a bear market? Or do we still have one last chance to pump the market and continue the bull run to break through to an interesting level? All of this in today's episode, so sit back comfortably this Monday and let's get started. So my dear friends, let's start with on-chain data. Short-term holder, realized profit and loss ratio. And here, listen, short-term holdings. Holders are underwater for the first time in a long time. They were at a loss almost all of February, and now March isn't looking too good either. It's not helping them so far. A lot of losses are being realized, so we have quite an unfavorable situation here. And one could say there's a sense of resignation among short-term investors, or maybe not. Resignation, but fear of further declines. The question is whether we should interpret this fear of further declines as an actual possibility of a downturn, or rather take into account that, as usual, they sell at the lows and buy back at the highs. So in this situation, you have to decide for yourselves what you believe more. It is clearly evident that we are gathering quite a strong breaker. In fact, I will show this today on the charts, precisely all the zones, how I currently see Bitcoin on Ethereum, so you have a full update on how you can potentially play it. So, here. This chart, as usual, confirms the actions of the street. And here, realized loss by cohort. And here, listen. The number of losses realized by short-term holders' positions is the second largest in this cycle. You can see that they are starting to panic. So here, if we look at our entire cycle, we can actually see that this is the second largest, maybe not liquidation, but sell-off. So indeed a strong panic among short-term investors. The question is, how much longer could it remain? I would say prolonged. How much longer could it be, this wearing down of such short-term investors? Because long-term investors, as you know, have experienced such things before and are not as susceptible to this stress or panic in the crypto market. So here the question is, how much lower should we go to weed out all the short-term players and continue building the growth trend, which I personally still believe in? And now, my dear friends, Bitcoin Binance on exchanges, which means the balance of Bitcoins on exchanges. The decline in this balance on exchanges seems to be slowly flattening out. We can observe that for about 30 days, the relocation of capital from exchanges has slowed down. And it's evident from the chart that the trend has clearly changed. This is not the best news. When it comes to the continuation of the bull market, what this might mean is simply that the balance on exchanges or investors will be adding their Bitcoins directly to the exchange probably soon, maybe to sell them, because long-term holders also have, their patience. Here I'm talking about patience. How long can you hold in quotes, and whether or not it's better to realize the profits we already have, since we entered from 50,000 downwards. So the situation here can vary. I personally am a long-term holder who bought Bitcoin for $51,000. And I have to say that I'm not exhausted yet. This situation doesn't stress me out. I have my levels, and as I mentioned to you earlier on the charts, I'll show where the critical level is, where I'll decide, okay, I won't wait any longer. In my opinion, we can start without hesitation, and I will start selling my Bitcoins as well as my altcoins, but I will show you this on the charts, so stay tuned and listen. Anyway, we can also take a listen at the Bitcoin total supply held by long-term holders. So here these long-term holders are increasing their holdings. However, the start of the declines caused panic among short-term holders and purchases among long-term holders. So you could say that this is somewhat a positive sign that Bitcoin hasn't said its last 5 words yet, that indeed these long-term holders, who usually are much more right than the short-term ones, have actually been buying something. I myself was buying during these declines, not only Bitcoin but also altcoins, not just for the long term, but also for swings, strictly for quick position closures. So here, there is still a glimmer of hope that indeed those long-term model investors, if they are buying, there might be a rebound. But my dear friends, remember that you should be very cautious, or maybe not cautious, but pay attention to the level of $102,000, because that could be a critical point and a massive sell-off of Bitcoins might occur. Anyway, listen, If we look at the crypto fear and greed index, we officially have quite a strong fear in the market. It's clear that the sentiment has changed significantly, and I mentioned that Trump might bring more harm to the market rather than benefit, because we had quite a large, maybe not very large, but noticeable sell news. Indeed, after he talked about reserves in bitcoins or cryptocurrencies, we'll discuss this today much in the news, so I'll explain everything to you there. And here, my dear friends, we can now see altcoin season index, and there's no talk of alt season start. For now, Bitcoin's dominance is holding the alts by the neck. The money is not flowing directly to Ethereum or even to those altcoins, bypassing ETH altogether. So the situation is weak for now. Of course, considering that we are in this dip, and from here the only way should be the breakout of altcoins, and somewhere there a demonstration of this alt season. However, my dear friends, be prepared for the fact that this alt season might have already happened. I'm not saying there won't be another pump on the alts, because I'm waiting for it myself. I personally believe that altcoins should still have a bit of positivity, to push up their prices, to pump up their own prices. However, for now, we shouldn't get our hopes up, just like that, for any big pumps, so be careful, keep in mind. Plan B for a possible exit from altcoins if this alt season does not occur. And you can't say, my dear friends, that there was no alt season, because there were altcoins that pumped by dozens, there were altcoins that pumped by several, even a dozen times. So in reality, if we didn't get a second strong pump in crypto, you couldn't say that there was no alt season. However, it was very diluted and not similar to the one from the previous cycle, where coins were doing dozens of times. So practically everyone. Moreover, if we look at, Bitcoin ETFs, the fourth consecutive week with outflows, it has never been like this, or rather, it has never lasted this long. So here is another element to scare the streets. Another element for people to start saying that we have a bear market, that it's the end of crypto, that the game is over. However, as I told you, I don't claim that. I think it's actually pretty bad. I'm preparing for the possibility that there might be an end, let's say, to the cycle. Yet I believe that the probability of a breakout still exists, and I'm personally waiting for it, but indeed these ETFs look very weak. Moreover, remember that when there is an outflow from ETFs, the balance must be zero, so bitcoins are simply sold at that time. And next week, is quite interesting because we have the core CPI on Wednesday, core PPI on Thursday, and unemployment claims. So next week, we have several events worth watching, but I remind you of one key thing. Such important events are usually played out in advance. They are usually priced in advance, so if you see volatility at the beginning of the week, it will likely be volatility that is pricing in the events in the latter part of the week. And now, my dear friends, let's move on to the most important part of the episode, which is the charts. Let's start, listen up, maybe with Bitcoin dominance, the so-called dominance actually, because nothing special is happening here. We are consolidating all the time. Unfortunately, this does not have a 100% reflection on the price. The price is quite volatile. Here we are constantly observing. You can see there is indecision whether Bitcoin actually wants to gain some momentum and pull us higher, or if we are still in this local downtrend, which we will discuss shortly. It is not 100% well correlated when it comes to price. This Bitcoin dominance, however, anything that breaks through 62.3% could indicate some desire to actually increase. The price ranges on Bitcoin. If we look at the chart on ByBit, since we will soon move to the chart on Binance, we will see a rather unappealing situation. Look, we had consolidation here, we had quite a long consolidation, a breakthrough of the main liquidity zone, which is the resistance to support flip, which, unfortunately, was not broken. Then it went upwards. Look, we got an overbalance of this entire move, and strictly technically, after an overbalance, we should always get a higher peak. Ideally, make an ATH to confirm the continuation of the upward trend. Unfortunately, such a situation did not occur here. We didn't even break through this breaker that formed here, so it can be said that this breaker in this place is simply a very aggressive spot. Sell. Very aggressive selling, so next time we enter this area, you need to pay attention to whether there might be more selling pressure than buying. In my opinion, the maximum potential uptick for Bitcoin at this moment is around $102,000. And from there, I will try to short Bitcoin because there will be a bull trap, you could say, because we might get a grab. Simply a liquidation or a liquid grab above this breaker and a further continuation of the decline. Personally, from around $100,000 to $102,000, I will slowly start selling off Bitcoin as well as my altcoins, because we don't know if we are truly at the point where we are entering this bear market or if we are still going further. Somewhere there, Bitcoin might want to push to 118, at most $126,000. So, of course, I prefer to take profits and not be surprised later. Bear market. And if we push upwards, then I'll simply sell a bit more of those cryptocurrencies. Here, you also need to see a rather interesting correlation that I wanted to show you, because let's also take a moment to look at the Binance chart. Because here, my dear friends, the main zone of the entire bull market, in which we have been since January 2023, is where we have the main flip, the main support area. Similarly, one could say, as here, when we look at the weekly chart, you will see that in this place we had buy-side liquidity, which is this yellow zone from the pivot candle that pulled us down, much, much lower. We had a fairly strong, quite impulsive breakout and a retest, but my dear friends, the retest did not actually happen immediately, because after the breakout we had to wait 168 days for the retest. In the current situation we are in, one could say that after this impulsive breakout we waited for the retest around 91 days. It's not about us having some range and being able to compare it. That's not the point. What I mean is just that this descent to the previous one, bull trap to these many confluences, can of course be a technical place from which we bounce back and break out. New all-time high, but look how little volume there is here. Look at how little volume there is on this weekly chart. On the daily chart, there is significantly more volume, but unfortunately it is declining volume, meaning that in this entire cluster after breaking the new ATH, mainly selling volume appears. Moreover, referring to the on-chain data you just saw, it doesn't actually look optimistic regarding the potential desire to break a new ATH because people are disenchanted. Perhaps they didn't quite expect that we might not be moving upwards. After Trump's announcement, most people didn't expect that it would probably be the case. It was really just about what they already have, and they won't want to buy more. So at this point, the market suddenly stopped having an ace up its sleeve, suddenly stopped having information that could pump it. Moreover, if we look at the total three, there's also the so-called berry pile. Why? Because we have dropped below our main support zone. On the total three below $830 million or rather $1 billion. And at this point, we are staying below, which is not a good sign at all. So my dear friends, here, it's not that we won't have Ethereum at 6,000 or some kind of alt season. But for now, strictly from the chart, it doesn't look good. What do I assume? How do I exactly see it at this moment? Listen, first of all, there's no point in assuming that there will be a bull market, and there's no point in assuming that we're definitely heading into a bear market. You need to take a step back, so to speak, and look at it without emotions. In the zone where we currently are, I had buy orders for a swing long, which I will not hold. Longer than 102,000, but around 89, around 94,000, and ultimately 102. I will be collecting profits from this swing long. There's some reversal candle appearing here, but we don't have any confirmation on the weekly chart yet. On the daily chart, it also looks quite nice, but you can't say that just by looking at one candle. That's it. We're already coming back, because we haven't received any signal candles here yet. We need to wait a little longer to see what kind of price action, what kind of candle structure we'll want to form here in the upcoming week, or rather in the week that has already started. The maximum drop that we would want now, or rather that most market participants assume, is around $71.2 thousand. And now, my dear friends, there are two scenarios you should consider regarding this zone. The first is that we won't drop to it at all. We'll stay here around this 131 and from here try to break a new ATH, or at least test the vicinity. $100,000 because this is our main breaker. The next scenario is that we will drop to this zone, but of course, everyone will be waiting, everyone will be buying there. And remember, retail, meaning the street, which is really us, only has 5% market dominance, meaning the entire street is 5% of the market. The rest are whales, big players, funds, banks, states, etc. So in my opinion, purely technically, we could create a beautiful bear trap, and such a bear trap would break through our zone with quite interesting volume. And it would stop around $66,000, from where we could have a possible rebound. However, remember that we are at a point where you need to consider both bearish and bullish scenarios, so you don't end up caught off guard. Therefore, I personally see such scenarios and intend to play them out. When it comes to altcoins, listen for example to Phantom, which I like very much. It's behaving terribly, the chart looks very bad. We've broken through the anchored VWAP or Anshua, and it just doesn't look positive. Fortunately, fundamentally, nothing has changed there. Everything is okay. The declines, so in cryptocurrencies, the declines in altcoins are probably caused by the unfavorable situation of Bitcoin and the low open interest, meaning this open interest is decreasing. One could say that interest in the market is lower, but that's precisely when we should be considering what purchases we want to make, setting up setups, determining possible scenarios, what might happen in this market to be ready for it and not miss out. Like the proverbial street that simply doesn't know what it's doing, only entering at the peaks and selling at the troughs. So we don't want to be those kinds of people. If a trough appears, you buy it up because the market moves in waves. When we have a decline, there will be a rise. When we have a rise, there will be a correction. Remember this because that's simply how the market works. And our task is to identify the best support zones and sell at the best, strongest resistance zones. So here, of course, not only Phantom, but also a bit. More of these altcoins have been bought by me. Here also is a zone on XRP, which is quite an interesting zone, because it's 0.5 of the entire impulsive upward movement. Together with the value area low and a fairly strong liquidity zone, it has been retested, or rather respected in a positive way. We bounced back, and indeed there's a lot of liquidity here. People who want to buy this XRP to load up for potential increases, so it's quite a good support level from which you can try to catch longs, you can try to catch swings on the spot. With a very good risk-to-reward ratio, because stop losses are relatively well below this zone, you can simply set them up. Well, there's something to be said here, it's not performing well. I have signals set around $1,700, $1,600. And only from there will I buy Ethereum on the spot, but not for the long term, strictly for a swing that might attempt a return to $2,700, which would give me an actual movement, 57% of the base movement, which I think would be more than enough for me. However, remember, the worst is that just like Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrencies, it's approaching a critical moment. The critical moment is because if we started closing below this green zone and there was no trap, but we actually started going lower and lower, I personally would consider it the first confirmation that we are entering a bear market, and simply, as they say, it's time to escape. From some projects, for now, it's not yet decided, so there's no need to lie down and panic, but rather to pull yourself together, make plans, and simply react to potential zones. As I said, I rather believe that we still have the possibility of this uptick. We still have the potential to actually rise to at least $102,000, and that's what I'm counting on. That's what I'll be playing out. I will also be selling some of my cryptocurrencies there. Of course, I will keep you updated on this in real time in the Patron Zone on Discord now, to which I warmly invite you, as it is free. And getting into the Patron Zone, as you know, is simple because you just need to create an account on the exchange where I trade and deposit $100 to keep the account active, and then you have it for life. So there. I will keep you updated on, so to speak, the development of this plan because price action changes, the market changes, decisions change. So if today's decisions or the price reach certain levels, I will simply react. And I will keep you updated on. I will inform you on Discord. And here, my dear friends, there's no need to stress. For now, it really doesn't look tragic yet, but definitely prepare for the potential sale of part of your cryptocurrencies or the point of entry. The first area we talked about is already the vicinity that was touched upon during the night. We'll see how the United States opens today. We'll see if they continue the buyback. If we don't get an impulsive upward movement, an actual volume entry, and an attempt to buy back these declines, it won't be a good sign. It will rather be a negative sign, which could lead to a continuation of the declines and fulfillment. 1,618, meaning the entire FIB extension, the entirety of our consolidation here, this movement, I think that also means $74,294 will be a very good reaction point from which we can see so many buy orders that the price will automatically just bounce off this level and try to return to the green zone. And now, my dear friends, let's move on to the most important market news which each of you should know at this moment. Namely, listen, the Reserve, Donald Trump signed an executive order on Friday night, establishing a strategic reserve of bitcoins and stocks of other digital assets. And everyone expected that suddenly the United States would start buying, but nothing happened. However, the reserve created is not at all what investors expected and what was exactly announced by Trump at the beginning, actually before the start of his term. This reserve is to be created, listen, exclusively based on cryptocurrencies confiscated by the federal government in criminal and civil proceedings. This means that the administration does not plan to actively buy cryptocurrencies on the market, nor to sell them, So, my dear friends, there will be no pump due to the United States government. Bitcoin has been, you could say, singled out as the only from cryptocurrencies included in the strategic reserve. At its start, the US government will use about 200,000 Bitcoins, which it already possesses, mainly from previous confiscations and nothing more. I repeat once again, they will not be buying more. Apart from Bitcoin, the regulation provides for the creation of a separate vault for other cryptocurrencies, such as Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. So, my dear friends, everything that was mentioned in his tweets cannot be said to be untrue because it aligns with what they will actually be doing, but it's just good. There will be one Bitcoin wallet, another for ETH, and a third for Solana. But no purchasing of these coins will take place, so these altcoins will be stored, but not officially recognized as a strategic reserve. Their stocks will not be increased, so the announcement of alts as a strategic reserve was just marketing, and those who were meant to profit did profit. As I mentioned earlier, the regulation does not provide for the purchase of cryptocurrencies with taxpayers' money. Instead, the government intends to accumulate bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies solely through future confiscations. However, the question arises whether Trump's decision that the USA does not buy crypto now is not a brilliant strategic move because Trump, being obviously more of a businessman than a politician, he is well aware that buying Bitcoin for reserves now would involve enormous costs, which the USA cannot afford at the moment because their goal now is to bring money into the United States, not to spend it in large amounts immediately. Therefore, instead of allowing purchases, he prefers to wait for the bear market, when Bitcoin would not cost 100,000 but, for example, 30 or 40. Does this theory make sense? We will find out in a few months. Now, my dear friends, the White House Summit, crypto actually, organized on March 7, 2025 by the Trump administration, was the first event of its kind. At the White House, it discussed plans to create a strategic reserve of bitcoins and digital stocks signed the day before by Trump using recently confiscated cryptocurrencies. Of course, the summit was attended by none other than industry leaders, including the Armstrong brothers, representing Coinbase, Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, and the Winklevoss brothers from Gemini. Trump announced making the USA the crypto capital of the world by easing regulations and ending the war on cryptocurrencies. The reserve is called the Digital Fort. NOx is intended to be a store of value, although the lack of plans to purchase new tokens quite disappointed the market, and we received the anticipated sell news. The summit, although it took place in a good atmosphere, left a significant sense of dissatisfaction, which is evident simply from the current market. And again, the slowdown of this market because it was supposed to be, but it isn't. Listen, Arkham Intel, which is the tax office of the future, has launched a new update allowing the tracking of influencers' wallets. From now on, the wallets of individuals who have more than 100,000 followers on X will be visible for anyone to view. Now, over 950 addresses of various personalities are available to see, such as Vitalik Buterin, Justin Sun, Andrei Kronje, and the President of the USA, Donald Trump. I'm just very curious about how they plan to store, or maybe not store, but collect the actual addresses. Influencers, since we know this is a decentralized topic. If someone buys an external cold wallet like a LiPo, how can you determine that it's their wallet? Because that's where everyone mainly keeps their long-term holdings. And that's all, my dear friends. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If so, then of course give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episodes. And we'll see each other soon because we have live streams every day. I warmly invite everyone to join on Discord, and the next episode is coming soon. So take care. I wish you a wonderful Monday and a good week. For now, bye.